Do you need some makeup?
I don't think so.
You good? Okay.
Do you ever like dull your face or anything?
We don't. I shaved my head though. I shaved my head.
I took a shower.
You took a shower?
Yeah.
You sure?
I mean, I don't know, these deodorants that you get in Rossmann, they're like, I feel like there should be a legal issue with claiming deodorant works for 72 hours. You know, like yeah, it smells like it works. So, you know, it smells like you're about on the, 68th hour right now, you know?
This is, however, what's the brand again? The red one. Captain, no, I forgot.
Old Spice.
Old Spice.
Yeah, of course.
It's supposed to hold that long.
Yeah, I mean, that's impossible. That's like, I don't know. I feel like that's like having an energy drink saying this keeps you up for 72 hours. Like you're framing it as though it's a good idea.
That would be a problem though. Jeez, imagine.
Yeah.
Just with a drink. Kyle Geiger, welcome to the show. Very nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. What's up?
I've been in the dark northern Europe for a couple weeks now, and getting used to still having it be dark at 4 p.m. I was shocked. I woke up at 8 this morning and it was daylight out. So yeah, but it feels like very, very normal routine. I'm kind of going back and forth between here and the U.S. right now, so we'll see what the future holds.
So the routine is back?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been traveling less due to life changes and life circumstances that I won't bore you too much with, but new additions to the family and things like that. And people always ask, they say, well, isn't it hard, isn't it really strenuous as a DJ to like constantly be traveling? I'm like, well, I'm not constantly traveling. Like that's the social media illusion, you know. You don't post about your non-travel days, but I think people just think that every DJ is constantly on the road. But I do think about which is harder. Is it harder to be one of these A-listers where basically the only decision making that they have to make is like Tuesday to Thursday or Monday to Thursday, and the rest of their lives are kind of spoken for via a printout itinerary. And with the tier or whatever you want to call it that I'm at, it's like they talk about cars. The hardest thing, the hardest mileage on cars is the stop and go traffic. It's not the highway mile. So I see the A-listers that are constantly on the road. Those are highway miles, in my opinion, because they've got the routine. They never are like, you know.
They know the drill.
Yeah, and then you kind of, the stop and go traffic, when you're in the routine, you basically have your travel suitcase, toiletries, everything stays in there, never leaves. And then if you've been not traveling for a little bit, damn it, forgot deodorant this time. My toothpaste is almost, like just little things like this, and it's still a really fun. This is not a DJ's complaining episode, but I do think sometimes the stop and go traffic is a little more challenging.
This episode is presented by Old Spice. We're gonna write them.
Good for 72 hours, if you dare. I don't endorse it.
So did you forget something this time?
No, but I was on empty.
Empty luggage.
I was on empty on deodorant, so like I had like 3 swipes left on the stick. I had like 3 squeezes left in my travel toothpaste, and I had 1 glop of hair product left. So I had to replenish
Sorted.
everything, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just losing my mojo, you know? Fuck. That's all I've got, you know?
Thanks for watching.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, gosh, the people are like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I don't. You see, I just, you know, yeah. Yeah, those are the things. And I also have a great habit of packing like an hour before I go to bed.
On the day before.
The day before I travel. And then I'll even sometimes tempt fate and be like, I'll finish this in the morning.
Oh, that's risky. Always on the edge.
Yeah, and then you end up with like 17 pairs of underwear for a weekend trip, and then you forget a t-shirt. You know? It's just I don't know. I think it's a deficiency on my end. I don't think this is a normal.
Don't you just take the same all the time? You don't have like a list, or like it's like burned into your system that you have like X amount of underwear, t-shirts, and like things to take, or even like to have like the things you only take like for traveling, so they literally never leave your luggage, one in, one out.
So I do something I swear by is travel cubes, or these little zipper compartments, because only serial killers actually unpack their luggage and use the drawers in hotels. I don't.
Makes sense, yeah, because like it's one night, so.
Yeah, you're a psychopath if you do that, you know? So I don't do that, but it is annoying if you like you're looking for a pair of socks and then, you know. So I am a little bit organized in that regard, but I do not have a packing list. I don't have. That would be a very intelligent thing to do, to be like, I'm gone for 2 days, therefore I need this and this and this. And it just doesn't happen.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Are you still on Twitch?
I am still on Twitch. When I'm traveling, it's a little bit more challenging. But yeah, doing a lot of studio sessions. Pretty much anytime I'm in the studio, at some point during that session, I'll go live. And for those that don't know, Twitch is largely a gaming platform that I really thought was a cool ecosystem for doing like studio streams. And I couldn't, the person I actually remember who sold it to me, it was Lag from Serbia. And I said, I don't get it. Like, why do people are just sitting there watching someone play video games? He's like, you like going into a stadium and watching people kick a ball. This is no different. And I said, I get it.
Perfect comparison.
Yeah, and even the different level, like there's streamers, like the huge game streamers, they're getting maybe, 20,000, 30,000 concurrent viewers at any given time. And the chat is just like, it's illegible because it's going so fast. But that's like the stadium cheering. And the viewership of something like my channel is much more like people interacting at like a cafe or in a studio, for example. Like if you just had a bunch of friends come over and hang out in the studio, it's maybe not like, for any productivity that's lost in the studio, it's really inspiring for me to just, I'm an extrovert. And so I always thought that it's a really weird dichotomy with DJing and production, because DJing is a very extroverted process. You're standing on stage in front of a bunch of people that are just staring you down. Some with less smiles than others, but it might just be me, No, but and then you're in the studio, and these are things that kind of, in my estimation, do go hand in hand. Creating music that you want to I mean, I always created music that was kind of filling in the gaps of what I thought was missing. That's how I got into production. But production is a very, very, especially in techno, it's kind of DIY to a fault, where it's very, very independent and isolating. You lock yourself into a room for 8 hours. I'm like, that sounds like solitary confinement to me.
Production process, you mean?
Yes.
That's a part of it, because like as a DJ, it's the exact opposite. So it's the balance about both.
Exactly. And Twitch was kind of the way that I could start enjoying the process again, because I had company in the studio.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. It's cool. I mean, like to have like an example digital reach, maybe also with a lot of introverts all around the world. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was really eye-opening that you kind of, you kind of just get in this pattern of approaching techno as just club music. And you forget that clubs are a pretty, all the factors of what it would take to enjoy clubbing. Like, do you like staying up all night? Most people don't like staying up all night. Do you like listening to really like intensely loud music? Some people don't like that. There's a lot of things about nightlife culture, which I love, that Twitch was really eye-opening for me, because I was like, man, this music should be for people that don't enjoy that as well. Like it shouldn't be that if you don't like, being in an arena, then you can't like Radiohead. Or, there's a lot of people that never go see their favorite band in concert.
Because some of them can't.
Yeah.
Geographically wise. Because if you're in a small village somewhere in the world, doesn't matter where, you just have no access to that. So like the internet is a very precious way nowadays to connect people and to keep them connected as well.
Absolutely.
The last Twitch we've done, the only one we've done is the beginning of the project that was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
At your studio in Marzahn.
Yeah. And I fell in love with these lights. These
are
the coolest. They give good lighting for the cameras, but also really good ambient light. And usually, the LED lights, I mean, you get what you pay for. And turns out I had to go through a few €5 Alibaba specials to realize that.
I sold a few organs since the beginning.
Yeah, the ring cam.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, but that was when you were getting started, and your whole operation has kind of exploded. It seems.
It started, yeah, because you've been here since day one. You were one of the first person I talked to about the project. One of the person with the most experience. I talked also to Sam, Setark Mas, and you were the first ones that you were kind of since a long time in the scene. And I remember I asked you what's the price to pay to get where you're at. And you told me straight, if you have a few drinks on a Saturday night, your week starts at 10 in the morning on Monday morning. If you have the rockstar life, it's Wednesday afternoon. And at the end, it's simple mathematics. And I completely changed my life since then.
Wow.
And we saw each other. That was in September 2022. And we saw each other. We had this Twitch session in January 2023, just after the shootings of the first episodes. It was literally like 1 week after, and I was still like processing, finishing to develop the concept, etc. And we released the first episodes then in March, and since then it's been all right. We filled that spot that was missing. So
that's really cool.
I'm very happy to have you here today to
finally
redo. We had you on the show last year in November at the Stadt nach Acht conference for this talk with Kati from Triangle and Olivia Mendes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. It was the three of you.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting talk.
I really enjoyed that, and I thought that everybody had. I like the panels because sometimes you catch yourself talking about something that you're not really that knowledgeable about, and having, sitting next to two experts in their respective fields, it's a nice braking mechanism to speak on topics that you know about, and it's actually a relief whenever there's other people. It's like, oh, that's Kati's, or that's Olivia's world. Like, I'll just sit back on this one.
What did scare you the most at that moment?
What's that?
What did scare you the most?
What scared me the most?
Were you nervous before?
No, I wasn't. I've been doing like stuff on camera for quite some time, and I think a lot of people are really nervous about going on camera, and they're really nervous about saying the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the nice thing about these long format discussions is that they're actually a lot safer. There's more time for you to say something controversial, I guess, but there's also more time for the person to, someone that's being intellectually honest and in good faith, trying to figure out what you mean by a comment that might be like raising eyebrows. They can kind of get to know your overall demeanor versus something like Twitter in its heyday, or whatever they call it now, and these like, hottakes.com.
Yeah.
There's no context, and this thing can get, this 2 or 3 sentences can get shared to masses of people that have no idea anything that took place before this thought and anything that took place after it. And it can be, those can be very time consuming to pick up the pieces after.
But this happens also with video formats when you see, I mean, this is also like how we do the promotion of every podcast, every episode is like by cutting some snippets.
Sure.
We never had any problems, and I really wish we won't have some, but I guess it's gonna come one day. If something is cut the wrong way and don't know what has been said before and after, and you just have this 20 seconds of a statement, and this goes viral, this can go very, very dark way. Yeah,
and it can take. Some people never recover from it, and sometimes there's a lot of clarity, and like, if I put the wrong melody in a track, people might stop liking it. So if I say something if I say something super obnoxious online, I can't really fault people, because everything on social media, no matter how we spin it, at the end of the day, it's like an advertisement for either what we're doing as a business or us as a person. Mm-hmm. And if you're not running a business, or you're not doing art or music online, you're advertising what's of value to you. And I mean, it's 100%. And in that regard, if you accept that reality, that's kind of a little bit dystopian, but also understand that this is a very limited snippet of who you are. And if you're trying to put together some kind of theoretical highlight reel, then you have to consider these type of factors and variables. Yeah.
I mean, at the end, like you get canceled if you let people cancel you.
Well, I always say you know people have to subscribe to you to cancel you. So you know if you're a stop and go DJ, then you know there's not really a lot of no. But I do think it is a very fortunate in this regard to if you just don't have a big enough audience, like a huge reach, you don't get the people that might kind of go after people for a living. And it's not impossible, but there's not any kind of skewed incentive to go after me. It's not gonna do much for you, you know? So like, it's not to say that it's not happening, but I think if you're a smaller artist, you're not gonna get these people that are really going after you in bad faith, which that definitely does exist on.
They have way too much time.
That's what it appears to be to me as well. I don't know the person, but or the people that do this, but yeah.
The Reddit community also is quite surprising. I'm wondering also, like sometimes I hear like from my friends, like what's being written on there. I'm not on that group. I don't check it. I sometimes like for the German speaking people. Do you know Bild Zeitung? It's a boulevard kind of
it's
newspaper,
like a tabloid,
but like really bad.
Yeah.
And it's like that for the club culture. I'm like, why? I mean, it's great that it's a platform and you can exchange and have good feedbacks. I'm gonna say good feedbacks.
Yeah.
To focus on the positive things. But on the other hand, I'm like, why do people need or like feel the need to take so much time of their own life to write negative things online? I've always been like, how do you say, surprised by the amount of energy someone can waste by shitting on someone else instead of like trying to make a difference. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a public conversation specifically about Reddit, and it was a long form discussion, and I think most people understood what I was saying, but I think that these things are of value. Again, it's all about like good faith discussions, and I think it's important, especially for me, the best clubs, the best parties are places that either drastically limit or completely prohibit any kind of recordings. And I think it's important in the same way record reviews are important. Record reviews are not important anymore in the sense where when I was a kid, I would look at Spin Magazine or Rolling Stone, see the record reviews, because as soon as you took that CD out of shrink wrap, it was yours. Couldn't return it. So you basically had to make a $15 bet on every piece of music you purchased. You didn't listen, maybe there was a radio single out for that. And so the reviews back then were kind of like both a cultural analysis, and they were also a buyer's guide. Now, in the time that you read a music review, you could have listened to the music yourself. So you don't really need a buyer's guide. But I do think it's important to have that cultural analysis form of review. And I think that sometimes I see things on these communities on Reddit or whatever and have like really good faith discussions about it. But I would encourage people that are doing these assessments to weigh, again, the context, the bigger context of is important in every assessment, not just on hot takes on Twitter,
Yeah.
but if you say, hey, I've seen Kyle Geiger for 10 years, and I know what this person is capable of, and tonight he under-delivered. I think that would be completely fair. Don't say that. But just for example, you know, it would be completely fair and say, here are the things that really resonated, or here's the records that he did that really resonated, and weighed against this person's own body of work. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like when people, it makes me feel weird when sometimes after a set, someone will come up to me and be like, you saved the night. I'm like, I don't want to weigh what, even when it's a compliment, I don't want to weigh what I do against other people's success or failures. Or like, I want you to weigh what I'm doing maybe only against other things that I've done. Yeah. And because this is how music, comparing artists to other artists that's how music starts to get really homogenized. Is you have an apex, and it's, if you're weighing everybody against everybody else, oh, this person was the best in the night, and then everybody's going into their heads and saying, how can I be that next? You know, how can...
Sure.
And I do think that these message boards have value, and that dates me by calling it a message board. But yeah, I was a big Nine Inch Nails fan, still am. And you had these listservs, like you would maybe, some of them would come in the format of, like, there was an email that you would send to, and it would send out your post to the community. Mm-hmm. And you kind of had to be signed up to be a part of that. You couldn't just, it wouldn't really be beneficial to just pop in and be like, you know, Trent Reznor sucks or whatever. And then there were bulletin board systems, and there was always kind of this trash talking, and it was kind of fun banter and whatever, but maybe it's a little too easy to, maybe everything's a little too accessible we have 7 different ways that we can reach out to every artist. It's possible, which is like a really cool thing. But sometimes just being so heavily online can...
it fries your brain.
Yeah, it can fry your brain, and it can also... If you see enough callousness, then you forget that you're critiquing somebody's work that they worked really hard on, and that there's nothing wrong with criticisms. DJs should be very musically opinionated, and I think that if part of your job is to be musically opinionated, then you really can't hold it against people that come to see you play to have those same deeply held opinions. So I don't think it's like a all bad thing, but I think that maybe it's a little too easy. Like, I like on Twitch, actually, you can limit if somebody's just hitting boom, 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 like you've commented too many times in this window of time. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna put you in, like, not a timeout, but a cool off, where you'll be able to comment again in 5 minutes.
Hiroko, Kylie's talking about you.
Yeah, I know. Hiroko is, I think Hiroko is my friend that tries... She knows that I can get in trouble for stuff. She can't get in trouble for stuff. So she's untouchable, and she is amazing. And what people don't know, and this was probably the most embarrassing thing for her is that she's incredibly sweet and incredibly generous. She just sent my son Rubik's, like a high-tech Rubik's Cube, and one of the old legendary Japanese Bandai robot models, and pretty cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Please connect us. I would love to have her on the show as well.
She'll do it. I'll nudge her. So, yeah.
So how do you keep yourself sane in this digital pollution that's going on online? Because I think like it's really good that you said that it can be really positive as well, that you can have a lot of positive and good input. Also, like to connect with people, like stay in touch with people all around the world. I mean, like, that's how we follow each other nowadays as well, like without living in the same city anymore. I forgot what I wanted to say.
How do I keep from going crazy? And
the pollution, yes. About, because what you said before, like now it's easy to get online and to push yourself, etc. And then you had this very interesting point, which I agree 100% about, the fact like it doesn't matter if it's music or any other kind of art, like other art forms. It's like you gotta be educated about what you're doing. You gotta be open for critique. You gotta be able to do it, to take it, and to learn then both ways. Is the music scene, like the club scene nowadays, really about the music anymore? I personally don't think so, since I see a huge evolution of social media where you have a performance as well from the artist. You have to say, to mention Milos, Commissar Lag, he told me his opinion about you have to have a scene, like a stage presence, and not just like focus on your decks and the music that's coming out. You have to do things to show yourself, the music, and then you have the social media presence as well. Everything you post online, etc. And this took a drastic change since 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, crazy.
What's your opinion on that?
Crazy change. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to look back at the way things used to be very nostalgically and with rose-colored lenses, you know?
Yeah.
And this idea that stage presence is this new thing. I mean, from the U.S. rave scene, I can tell you some of the coolest acts to see were Green Velvet. You know, when he did a Green Velvet performance, he was doing more than DJing. He was dressing up in with the plugs, the green plugs. He had the outfit, the costume. He was a performer. Russian Roulette, when DJ Rush would play as Russian Roulette, again, would dress up in kind of a drag aesthetic, and that was Russian Roulette. Rabbit in the Moon, there was one person that was just performing. There was not music being played. I mean, Prodigy.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying, oh, now all you have to do is dance on stage. That's literally what Keith Flint did starting out.
Let me refine what I've said, because I think like these are excellent examples, and I think, or like what I observe and that's my personal opinion. Like over the last episodes, I didn't really give it out like that, so I'm really happy that it's with you that I finally do it. Do it with style. I don't know if you know the rapper, producer, and performer Channel Tress. I really do enjoy his music. He's a guy. He's from, or like he lives there. I don't know if he's from Los Angeles. He raps, he produces, he dances, and he DJs as well. And he is like, I discovered his music during Corona, Spotify recommendations, and then I digged a little deeper in his work, in his art, and like the way he sings. He got an 80s porn star voice. Really deep, really suave, and like how he sings, what he sings, the beats he sings on, and his stage presence, because like he dances with like 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah,
everything is so perfect. He also got a few DJ sets online where you have his team, like his dancers, dancing behind him, and like he plays, but then he dances a little bit, but he sticks to his music. Like it doesn't matter where, like what kind of performance he's doing, he slays every time, and that's what I personally enjoy the most, because I think like there is a little bit of research, like a little bit, there's a ton of work behind that. You can feel that, and I think that especially nowadays, like since you can, as we said before, put so much content online so easily and everyone can get famous, you really need to stick out, or like to get out of this mass by doing your own thing. And this is really difficult in a society that's consuming a lot. Doesn't matter like in what we're talking about, like fast fashion, music, art. You swipe, you just endless, like you scroll, and like the swiping also, like this has no limits. So to really stick to your true, like to your, I don't want to say to your roots, but like to your true self, and to make it the very best you can, I think is essential.
Yeah.
You know, and you can see it and feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was gonna, after mentioning these acts, Russian Roulette, Prodigy, Green Velvet, Rabbit in the Moon, the important thing is that the act and all of that was the spice on the substance. And like social media is a very necessary thing that's here to stay, or something even crazier than what social media has become. Well, it's not gonna pump the brakes. There's not gonna be a less radical version of TikTok that comes out. So, you know, roll with it. But I guess on the counterpoint is that social media is a storefront. And I used to work retail, and that's, you know, how disappointing and how bad of an idea would it be to have an amazing storefront and you're getting all this foot traffic coming in, and then you come in and the
product sucks.
There's no product. There's no product. There's not a thing about how I want to know, and I think it's the industry side of things. It's going to do what it's going to do, and you know, promoters have to make money, clubs have to make money, and that's just the reality. But I think as an artist, what I would tell people. I'm not going to tell promoters or clubs anything about what they should and shouldn't do, because I don't know their finances. I don't know how much money they can afford to lose, how much money they need to make to keep the lights on. But as an artist, I would say, like, really, really think about your legacy, and really think about what you want people to know you for. And I think that it's really fulfilling to have someone know you for something that's an actual contribution to the ecosystem of techno music. That can be a number of things. I mean, it used to be, if you worked at almost, I would say probably 30% of the most famous DJs from Chicago at one point worked at Gramophone Records. And that was an important contribution. I've got friends that work at Hardwax. That's an important contribution to filling the techno ecosystem. Production, musical production. You're feeding the musical ecosystem. DJing is important. I love DJing. And I think I'm more of a DJ than a producer. But at the end of the day, and I believe it's an art form. But, like, it's not your music.
Ouch.
It is. I just say this, and this is, like, you can be. I've had a great time listening to cover bands, you know, but that is, there's limitations on how far. Okay, and again, if you're like a tastemaker, Jeff Mills, the wizard. Yeah. I mean, that is a musical contribution as just a DJ, where if you talk to people, not just techno, I mean, the Wizard wasn't really, he was kind of a multi-genre persona. He wasn't playing the bells and stuff like that. In fact, I saw him play as the Wizard one time, and I was still this young, puritanical techno head, and I was like, this isn't Jeff Mills, blah, blah, blah. But that's like the stuff that everybody in Detroit from that generation knew the Wizard. There's an Eminem song where he talks about the Wizard changing his life. Didn't make the album cut, it's a B-side. But yeah, I mean, and so whether promote parties, that's a contribution. I'm not saying that you need to produce and that's the only way to do it, but I do think that it's important to think about your legacy. I have friends that work for like the Berlin Club Commission, and that's a contribution. Contribute to things that give life and not just consume from the ecosystem.
So now let me ask you that question. How do you tell someone, before that person wants to become a DJ, what could you bring to the scene? Like what do you bring to the scene? What would be your question, like your recommendation to that person to make him, her, they go on the right path to bring to something and make the scene evolve into an interesting direction for the community?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm from Indiana in the US. And there is a level of respect that I have for people. There's a night in the city that I would most call home on that side of the pond. It's Fort Wayne, Indiana, and there are people that they work day jobs. They have families. They have a lot of other responsibilities, but every Thursday night, they haul in a massive sound system to this Irish pub, set it up, tear it down at 3 in the morning when it closes. They're hosting, DJs that have been staples of the, music scene in Fort Wayne, but they're also giving a lot of new people opportunities as well. And they're really making sacrifices to contribute to that. And I think, to my point, there's been so many heartbreaking times, specifically in Germany, where I get to meet and maybe play for promoters who are doing really cool stuff in non-primary markets, we would say. Maybe a town or city of 300,000 people, similar to a place like Fort Wayne. And it really, as soon as it starts to get momentum, they're like, guess what? We're all gonna move to Berlin. And you're like, I get it. I don't want to tell you like not to do it, but you have no idea the value that you are providing. Because the reason why people make pilgrimages to Berlin to experience techno at its like highest point is because they got excited about it somewhere else, most likely. And if those ecosystems all die because everybody's starting to moving to Berlin or moving to Amsterdam or moving, and I moved to Berlin too, so it's not, no, I understand why people do it, but sometimes I think people understate the contributions that they're making in their local scenes. And that can be a huge part of a musical legacy. I mean, at one point there was no techno in Los Angeles, for example. That's a big city. Some friends of mine are part of the reason why there's techno in Los Angeles, and now it's absolutely massive. Parties every weekend, multiple warehouse parties every weekend. It's on a different level there. So that would be something to say where there's a lot. Your contribution locally can really make an impact. And if you're wanting to get started as a DJ, to really find, if you find ways you can contribute to your local scene, you will get opportunities to DJ. I think that that's a pretty tested formula. People will always lend their ear to people that are interested in doing something other than consume resources from the scene.
And in your eyes, how can a local scene, doesn't matter where, like whether it's like the Netherlands, Germany, US, Switzerland, France, how can a local scene afford to bring techno club culture, techno like Berliner techno DJs that in the meantime like are asking for a lot of money to their hometown and establish, build and keep a sane scene where you can also like party for quite a long time on the long term?
I would say don't try to be a major market. You're not work within what you have, work within the resources that you have. And and I can put my money where my mouth is, because there have been times that I've played for a promoter and after the night I said, honestly, I've even before getting booked, I've told promoters, I'm like, honestly, I know your heart's in the right place, but you bringing in a headliner is not gonna help bring in people who don't know. If people don't know what techno is in your community, the name of the artist or the profile of the artist is really irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Get people on the local level who are able to philosophically see music the same way that you do, who are going to put their heads together, put their money together. And, maybe you still will lose money on local nights, but build it from there, and don't even start thinking about headliners and all of that for a long time. You'll know when it's time to, like, a headliner should be like a celebratory thing of, wow, now it's like taken off. Let's bring somebody in. Yeah.
A safe scene. How, like especially with social media being so huge nowadays, and like promoters, especially in small town, from the discussion I've had with some, say the same. They have to book the big names to bring some people. Not talking about everyone, but like this is a point that I got heard a few times, where you tend to think, okay, if I book a super famous artist, at least on Instagram, this will attract more people. When I was a promoter years ago, we started by exactly the way you've said it, like peu à peu, bringing the small names, then booking one DJ that was a little bit more famous than the other ones, which brought us to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And when we were at what I still see as our peak, then I left the project. And when I see what's happening in my hometown right now, like this inspired a lot of younger guys and girls to do the same. And they established a pretty solid scene. It's interesting because like they got people like I really like, for example, Yako. They also booked Fidel. There was names like Farah, like really like very, very different kind of artists. And on the other hand, you have guys that came from another scene that jumped on a train of like organizing techno parties is cool and do their bookings through TikTok. So they check who's hot on TikTok and they book the huge names, like huge on Instagram. We're not talking about like people who left a legacy.
Yeah.
What's your tip on that?
I think there are, I could probably name 10 names off the top of my head that they're so big that the calculus is actually simplified for names like that. It's basically, can I have a venue and all that comes with that venue that is big enough to hold this person? And what's the door price that I need to charge? Because the venue is going to be at capacity with some, and I would say very few acts, mind you. And what's the ticket price going to have to be at the door? There's actually a lot more calculus that comes into mid-tier acts because there is almost no guarantee from that act alone that they're going to sell out a club if you book them. And I'm talking about myself as well. I'm not disparaging anybody else.
This happens like regularly.
Yeah, it happens regularly. And there's also, you can get into this kind of Stockholm syndrome as a promoter, where I always like we'll say 30% joke, 70% serious. If a promoter books an 800 euro or 1,000 euro budget artist, like 1,000 euro all in, let's say. And if the party does bad, they'll say, I'm never booking that act again. If they book a 10,000 euro artist and the party does bad, despite the fact that they've lost exponentially more money,
they'll stop doing parties.
No, they'll say, I hope this DJ and this agent is not mad at me. And I hope they'll give us another chance.
Interesting, no?
There's this psychological thing of like, it is impossible that it could be such a big X lack of draw as to why this party failed. But these numbers are, it's not baseball where you can say, okay, here's their batting average, here's their, here's how many home runs they hit, here's how their on base percentage, like all of these, like that. Baseball basically became a sport that you could calculate the value of a player solely based on concrete statistics. And it changed the way the sport happened, but that's another topic. But you can't do that with music. You can't say, you can look at Instagram, and you can say, okay, does this person have a following? But it doesn't tell you what cities they're big in. I know people that are massive in some markets and completely unknown in others. I know DJs that will sell out almost every club they play in Germany. Sell it out. And they're actually pretty affordable acts. Massive staples of the German scene. You go 2 countries over and no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have a massive social media following, but it's not going to translate if you book them in New York City. And so I think that I would really push back on the question of we need to book, or push back on the sentiment that we need to book big artists and unaffordable artists to do well on a club night. And once a month, there is some, publication or blog, and it just is interviewing promoters saying booking fees are out of control. And I say, I'll be real honest, most artists have not raised their booking fees to even adjust for inflation.
I've heard horrible stories.
Yeah. And so, but what they really mean is, wait, I should be able to get the loyalty discount from artists that sell out clubs now. I should be able to get what they were paying, what I paid 10 years ago for this artist. But the loyalty is not 2 ways. As soon as you stop selling tickets as a DJ, they're not going to keep saying,
why should I book you again?
Yeah.
Of course.
There have been some I've been really lucky. There's been a more than a handful of relationships where I really believe that the institutions and clubs or promoters have absolutely stayed loyal to me, in spite of the ebbs and flows of my career or popularity or something. And I try with all my being to reciprocate that loyalty, you know. But I don't. Yeah, and I think if you book based on if you need headliners to get people in the door, then you're eventually going to run out. You're never creating a culture because it's people will come or go based on the lineup. You don't have a culture of like what a lot of clubs here, the way they say this, I'm a Stammgast at this club.
A regular.
A regular, yeah. And I mean, also like Chicago, when I would go to Chicago, I'd always go to Smart Bar because I never even knew the lineup. We'd go record shopping, and then if we had time, we would go to Smart Bar. Didn't even know the lineup.
But I think that's a good point, is like to have a place or collectives, promoters that do establish, like do their work. And like they establish a scene, like make a name for themselves by booking who knows who, like for example, there's crew like Este Communi who do not communicate the lineups, etc. That you know, okay, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna have a good time. Because the lineup, the music's gonna be solid. And there's countless examples of that. And like Este Communi, they have people that are now quite famous that were literally, I mean, it's funny because people see Este Communi now, they don't see that they were doing like hauling speakers into an empty field somewhere in Amsterdam. Started from the bottom.
50 people, cops would come, you know, it could happen in the first few hours of the party, and they would just go until it didn't go. And people don't realize, they just, because of social media, they don't see the work that a lot of people put in on the ground level, and then everybody gets online. These people came from nowhere. What? No, they didn't. You just weren't paying attention at that time. But I think that it's a very, very risky business to believe that you can continuously hit the jackpot by guessing what headliner people want. I see it as day trading. You know, you can win a few times, but it's not a long-term.
No, I don't believe in that either.
Yeah.
But also, like, nothing against headliners, really not. But it's like, what's the interest in having this kind of recipe? Like, your interest to do what you're doing, if it's just to book these kind of artists.
Local acts, you mean?
No, like headliners. Like if you, because like Shami in his episode last year said a good club needs good residents.
Yeah.
You build a good community by having good local people. And this happened, like I had a lot of amazing discussion with people following this show. So thank you so much for approaching me and like sharing your stories with that. And they all said the same. They are passionate and they're obsessed about what they're doing, and like they're so interested and like so involved in how they do the things, like getting better and like passionate and like digging the right artist and doing like looking for the cool people, like then connecting with them. And this is how you establish, I think, a solid scene. And then again, like you had a little bit of that thing by having sometimes, like from time to time, then a bigger name. And like maybe sometimes you collaborate with other collectives and you do a huge party. I don't know, because like, especially as you mentioned before, like when you have a 10K artist playing and you fuck up for whatever the reason is, this can cost you your venue, you can just like stop, like put you in a very bad financial situation, because like a lot of promoters are talking about private promoters now are doing this for fun, like they're not living from that. And there's also like a big factor in the scene right now, where you have a lot of clubs that do have certain deals with certain agencies, like they book the whole roster of, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, at a certain regularity, etc. So it has many different factors to for this, and like this is something that may apply here in Berlin is like not doable, for example, in Wuppertal, like at open ground, for example, which is also like a next all great example because like they established like the club was built around their sound system. They have a very good booking, mixing local crowd and like good DJ. What is a good DJ? Like having good lineups, very balanced, I think. So is doing Tresor and Tresor West.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many examples of places that have done really well in spite of headliners that still book headliners, but it's just at that point, once those gears start turning, your booking policy is much better informed of who works and who doesn't work in a thing, you know, and once you establish the trust of your local community as a promoter, then you can say, this person, here's the person that I know will pop off in these parties. Whereas you just got to build the local scene, and I mean, we talk about it a lot, but I don't. And it's scary. It's scary to throw a party and have maybe 15 people come through the door. I mean, in small markets, it's very possible. And the tempting thing is I just didn't throw enough money at the problem, you know. And you know, if I just would have worn the Nikes, I could have played like Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, if I just would have had the nice coat or whatever, I could have been and booked in this on a fashion runway somewhere. Like all of these things, the artist is kind of like that's just a part of the puzzle and a spice for the whole equation.
And something I observed also, like after 9 years in Berlin, is also like with hanging out with a lot of artists, talking about many different subjects other than music and partying. Be nice. Be a nice person.
Yeah, that helps.
And there's don't force yourself, be yourself, show yourself. Because also, if you wear a mask, with also like all the substance abuse, etc., which changes your personality over the years, I don't think that many people really realize that, like about how deep this can go. Like, I mean, I didn't experience it myself, but I see a difference since I'm stupidly said clean. I'm myself. And before that, I was thinking I was myself, but I most of the time was whatever speaking. If you're genuinely interested in the people you hang out with the promoters, if you exchange, if you just like show the real you, whatever your name is, this helps a lot. And I've observed this a lot about like in different countries, in different scenes, that like some artists are going there regularly just because they maintain a good relationship with the promoters, with the crowd. And again, like we do have the scene, the same in the tattooing scene, by doing guest spots. You go and you tattoo in some studio, you tattoo different people, and you hang out with the team, and you build friendships, and like you exchange, and there is a taking and giving, and like this is very important nowadays, because I've observed also a lot of ego-driven situations, also like used to like how to say that came out of substance abuse, where I think that it's really sad that we do have, to be rough but honest, DJs and artists that are nowadays more a product than a real musician playing for the love of music. And like, in my opinion, again, this is a personal opinion, I don't think you should do it for fame, but like dig deeper and really ask yourself the right question while you're in the scene.
Yeah, and it's a very, very it's a very, very hard thing to engineer fame. You know, I think we get in these topics of, oh, all you have to do is be good on Instagram, and then it's like, then do it. If you really believe that this is what all you have to do, and you can have the chance of a lifetime to play the music you love for, you know, people who love that music. If you think that that's all that there is, like, then do it. But I think that most people don't actually believe that it's just social media. But yeah, the fame, if you're chasing fame in the music world, it's you would be better off being like an investment banker or something. Like if you want that status and that prestige and all of that, it's way more possible to work your ass off and guarantee. You know, you go put, my roommate from university he put 120 hours a week on Wall Street and got what he wanted, and he's out of that world now. But I don't think that they're, with art and music and cultural things, it's a way, like the interests of the public are a wave, and your interest as an artist and what level you're on as an artist and the wavelength you're on. And sometimes, you know, if you know anything about room acoustics, sometimes you have conflicting waves and they just cancel out. You walk around a nightclub room, there might be dead zones on the floor where there's no bass, and it's because a wave is bouncing off the wall and then a wave is coming from the speaker, and they literally, one's at a peak and one's at a valley, and it just cancels it out. And so there's gonna be times as an artist that you will be doing the exact opposite of the wavelength that the public is on. And you have to be okay with that. Like that, and that's a really hard thing to do, is to be like, I'm not popular right now, and that's okay. There will come a time, if I just stay on track and do what I believe, eventually there will be a time where the waves align and they're both at a peak.
Mic drop. Really well said, really well said, really well said.
It's hard to do. It's scary to do, especially, and that's why I tell people, I really encourage people to not prematurely drop all sources of stability, because you'll start making, I think, incorrect decisions as an artist if you absolutely have to do what you need to do to pay rent.
Yeah.
You know? And so sometimes there comes a point where you have to drop everything and do it, but I think it's the signal's pretty clear when those moments come up.
How did that feel for you?
I had to drop everything to move to Germany because my work visa was like, I can only do music when I first came here. But when I was in the US, I was always doing other jobs. I was working as a substitute school teacher, so I could pick whatever days I wanted. Love working with like high school kids, and it's like the perfect scenario for my interests and flexibility. Pick any day.
That's
like,
awesome, yeah.
On the way here, I'm getting like notifications about teaching for absentee teachers.
You're back to that now?
Back in it, yeah. I haven't started. I'm kind of back in the system, but that creates so much creative space to, if you're lucky enough to find a job that has absolute flexibility and pays like a decent amount, to be able to just kind of get by. But I always felt more creative when there was at least the illusion that I didn't need DJ money or music
You
money.
don't have the pressure behind that, yeah.
Yeah, and some people, everybody's different, but I don't do the like grind set mentality, grind it out in the studio. I'm like, I don't want the music to feel like I'm being dragged by the collar of my shirt creatively through this process. And you have to become familiar with when you're like, shut up, Kyle, you're being lazy, get to work. Or, Kyle, right now it's not in the cards. Go teach high school for a day and come back.
It's all about the balance.
It is, yeah. So I would have worked another job in Germany the whole time if it made sense to do that. But there are some logistical and administrative hurdles to that.
And you would have been paid really bad, so I'm glad you didn't have to.
Well, teachers,
Yes,
I'm at the risk of just spilling all the secrets. There's not many rich school teachers out there.
Yeah.
But kids are inspiring,
They are.
They've got and it's just it's so humbling also. I remember a kid came in and they always want to share the music they're listening to, and I ask them what they're listening to, and he played this Lil Wayne track years ago. I was like, that's a sample from Africa Bambaataa, which was a sample from Kraftwerk, and I went down this rabbit hole, and they couldn't be
Poor child.
less interested in that. I thought I was really gonna open this whole new world, and they're like, shut up.
Yeah, but don't stop to do that, because I had kind of a few teachers that did that, and we're sitting here. Not with music, with other things, and I became a tattoo artist. I looked the way I look like as well. I was drawing mandalas with my grandma after school, after homework. And when she was pissed when I first got tattooed, and she still didn't see this one, so.
Do we need to switch sides so that
she's not on Instagram.
Okay.
But when I first got my arm tattooed, with ornaments and mandalas and this kind of stuff, she was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Grandma, that's the same stuff we used to draw as I was a child." And she couldn't say anything. And then after it took a few months. I had to go back to Switzerland for a few months. I did a 6 months internship, then I went back to Switzerland for 5 months. And during these 5 months, I had almost every week a discussion with her, because I was still going, I was going there to my grandparents once a week. And we had this discussion every week. And the more the time passed, she understood peu à peu. Then she even came to visit the tattoo studio. She was a nurse, my granddad was a doctor, so they were super worried that we were working in a prison, and I was like, no, our material is sterile, we do wear gloves, we throw them away after every use, but it was interesting to see how she peu à peu interested herself for this kind of things, and then to get some also other inputs and output from her and other people, because I've drew a lot with her. I had a lot of times where we also I prepared tattoo designs with her, and then she was very interested, because she's still painting a lot, so we still have a very good connection.
You gonna tattoo her?
Sorry?
You gonna give her a tattoo?
She thought about it, but I think it's gonna be too much. She just turned 90.
Congrats.
So yeah. She's tough.
That's wild. Yeah.
What else do you get from teaching kids?
I love DJing and I love the music world, but it's quite, as much as we talk about anti-capitalist and all of this, it's quite a consumeristic thing. We're consuming music, we're consuming alcohol, we're consuming. We're buying merch. We're doing and there is community there, but and you can be as much of a contributor as you want to be, but when you teach kids, you don't leave ever questioning if it was worth it. You know, you don't ever say, there's never these existential moments. There might be some frustrations administratively sometimes, that's any job. But man, there's so many kids out there, and I think it's an international, worldwide thing. But the U.S. has I can only speak the most to the U.S. They have kids in really, really bad situations, and you know, I worked at schools with large refugee populations, kids from like a lot of Somali Bantu, kids from Sierra Leone, Congo, then Afghanistan refugees, Bosnian refugees, lots of kids that I worked with from Bosnia that I still stay in touch with from that era. And you learn so much from these kids that you're supposed to teach. So like on a selfish level, you're like, wow, I walk away from this transaction every day feeling like I've been taught a lot of lessons by these kids, and it's a very enriching process. And I don't think that you can't get this like savior complex, you know. But I think a lot of kids, they just need people to show up in their life, and that's
100%.
And like you don't have to be funny, you don't have to be cool. Lord knows, I mean, I tried to tell them what music this came from, and they didn't care. But like if you show up in their life and let them know that you care about them, I mean, I had a nice upbringing and a pretty stress-free. My father died pretty early in my life, but I still, relatively speaking, had a very, very good upbringing and positive upbringing. And you don't realize how many people don't have that luxury. And showing up in kids' lives, it might be the first person that's ever shown up. Might be the first time that someone like said they were going to do something and they actually do it. Yeah. You know? So it's a very powerful experience. And so the inspiration is kind of infinite with that when you're doing that kind of stuff.
I also hear the dad talking. It's good to see that you're offering the world what you didn't necessarily have the chance to have.
Well, I have full disclosure. I had a very fortunate upbringing, but I just am lucky that I enjoy being around high school age kids, and have gotten a lot of value, and I've learned so much from being in those environments. Yeah. So crazy.
Kyle, thank you so much for today.
My pleasure.
Your time.
Thanks for having me.
See you on the dance floor?
Yeah, this weekend.